Sean forgot to press record on the sound. So we're going to pretend we didn't do that an hour and a half. And
why do you talk so much shit? It's been a little bit.
It's been a while.
We done one of these.
Yeah, it's been a while. You were busy. I was busy. It happens.
Yeah. Christmas, New Year's,
Yeah.
family.
Family, yeah.
What'd you get up to over the break?
Well, I'm sort of semi-retired right now, to be honest with you. It's a bizarre lifestyle. I'm just with the baby all day. And then I'll do like work in the garden. An acre of grass that I was weeding today took me 5 hours to do.
Fucking 5 hours.
Fuck.
An acre of grass.
An acre of grass.
Of like
Just the
cut
grass.
Okay.
Not the bush that I'm pruning. That's a whole other thing.
Wow.
Just grass.
And so how do you like get rid of all of that?
Well,
I mean,
we've got a ride-on, which is this little red ride-on. Connected to this 50-litre tank of sprayer. Connected to the battery, and I just press the thing, it goes bzzz, and just sprays the grass. But I have to go do circular rounds, make sure I get every bit corner, because these weeds, these mosses, they're like, I have like a war with it right now.
Yeah.
I don't want to compare it to a war that's happening right now. It's a bit insensitive, but it's a war between me and the weed. So yeah, it's been winning. I feel stupid because I feel like I'm wasting time, but at the same time, it feels like sort of meditation. So when I'm done, I feel this zen.
Yeah. That's not wasting time.
No, exactly.
That's good for you.
Well, you don't really meditate, do you?
No. I reflect.
Do you write down your reflection?
No, I just like to think. Most of the stuff is just floating around in my head.
You don't get a cluster of thought. Doesn't bring you down. It doesn't affect your mood.
Like thoughts that annoy me or something like that, or is that what you mean?
Just too much thought shooting at you at rapid speeds, and you feel kind of overwhelmed.
Yeah. I think everybody gets that. Doesn't matter how well you're doing, everyone gets that.
Yeah,
There's
for
an
sure.
influx of like life's issues, problems, responsibilities. They all weigh everybody down every now and again. I think for me, I don't necessarily meditate, but when I go through those kind of thoughts, I just take a minute to just go chill the fuck out and think about it. And then I can't remember where I read this. Like it was years ago, man, I read it. It was one of the things that I kind of went to when I was like getting off my own journey of bad mental health, right?
Yeah.
There's a question, right? So let me see if I can get it right. So do you have a problem, right? Whatever the problem is, you got to say, do I have a problem? And if the answer is yes or no, right, doesn't matter. So if you say, yes, I have a problem, can you fix it? Yes, then don't worry. Same question, do you have a problem? Yes. Can you fix it? No. Don't worry, because you can't do nothing about it, right?
Yeah, so if you can fix it, fix it. If you can't fix it, don't worry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like an old Buddhist thing.
Yeah. And then the same question is, do you have a problem? And the answer is no, then don't worry. So I go back to that because everybody goes through life's problems and things bring us down. But at the end of the day, we carry on, right?
And I agree with you, yeah.
Yeah. I think though, the path of like a decline in mental health, anxiety and all that. So I guess what we could maybe talk about today is I went through a pretty massive depression. And when I think back on it now, it's kind of like I'm in such a better space in my life and in my head that I can actually look back on where it all began. Because there's not one thing that makes it happen. You can't go, where's it all coming from, and then target it. Like to get into a state of depression, it's a barrel that's been rolling and picking up shit along the way, right? For years.
100%.
And like my depression came through years of different things. And like that's when it comes down to, remember we spoke about honesty, like to first tackle all these things is you got to start being honest with yourself. And so, I had this big stigma, like especially when I was coming out of it and I started thinking of things is, you know how we have that Are You Okay? Are You Okay Day? And, you know, everybody gets on socials like, oh, are you okay?
Yep.
They do like a big spiel on Facebook's. You know, a lot of people who do these spiels as well may not actually be going through depression or haven't even gone through it, but they're giving advice, right, on how to behave, on don't let things bother you. It's like, are you okay? I think the message has been lost, because are you okay is not enough. And I'll explain why, right? Someone asks you, how are you? Your natural response is to go, good. It's a closed-ended question, right? Are you okay is a closed-ended question. It doesn't invite more than a good or a...
It's like yes, no.
Yes. Yeah. And so like even in my kids, when my kids were going to primary school, the school was handing out pamphlets about how to ask your kids questions at the end of school. In this pamphlet, it says, don't just ask your children, how was school? Because all they'll ever say is good, right? So what did you do today? Did you do sports? What did you do at sports? These are the kind of questions I ask my kids as well when I ask about the day. Did you make any friends? Who did you play with? Things like that, questions that they can actually answer and give you information, especially at that age. They open up more when you give them a little bit to give you. And like, if schools are saying this to parents about how to talk to your kids, right? How are you going to ask someone that you're worried about who's going through depression, how are you going to help them with a simple, are you okay? And I think that message has been lost. I think the day had, like, the phrase itself, whoever came up with it, if you look up, are you okay on the website, it'll tell you it's about starting a conversation, right? But that message has been lost. Everybody puts these posts up on social media and going, are you okay? This, do this. But there's more to it. And I think people need to start understanding about what they need to do to help a person open up, because suicidal rates is skyrocketing now, right? Depression is at its highest. Suicides is at its highest. So when you're trying to talk to someone who you're worried about, you need to give them a little bit more. And it could be over time. It doesn't need to be like a straight up question, are you okay? It could be checking in on them, not asking about mental health or how are you doing, just showing them that you're there for a little while and opening up like just a little bit of a like, hey, I'm here to communicate. I'm checking up on you. Just letting them know that there's somebody there. That's how you open up a conversation.
Yeah. Opening up your ears before your mouth.
Yeah.
Having putting on your listening ears.
Yeah.
As they say. No, I 100% agree. That's a good point, I was talking to, well, actually, let me say this. When it comes down to like the world at its current state, materialistically, we are at our peak. All across the world, even in poverty-stricken areas around the world, even there, materialistically, we are way on average above, our ancestors and
absolutely.
beyond.
Yep.
And yet, as far as data goes, you're right. It seems like suicides are up, depression is up. So there is no material answer to this feeling that we have, and it's a mass. We're all far more aware of it, maybe as well. So we're able to like put our fingers on it a bit better, a bit more direct. But at the same time, it seems like, okay, we're looking maybe in the wrong places for the answers.
I still think this goes down to previous conversations we've had about, our need for like constant addiction to screens, right? I think we've become more like connected virtually and disconnected in person or physically, right? And that is a big part of depression. It's like when you think about even COVID, right? We're all locked in our homes, couldn't see people that we cared about. We just pulled ourselves away from each other. And again, people were miserable over it. Yeah. So the more you keep pulling yourself away from society and the people you care about, the more disconnected you become. And that flares up depression, anxiety, you feel like you're alone in the world. And that's where, again, like we'll go into this a little bit deeper, but I think the core message I'm trying to say is the beginning is for everybody. They need to understand that are you okay is not enough. Asking that question is not enough. And these Facebook posts and stuff that people do, it needs to be more than that, because when I was going through depression, I'll tell you a story. So one thing is, like, when I was going through depression and I saw all these posts, I was like, that it just did my head in more, because I still felt alone. I didn't feel like anybody was really asking me or being there for me, because everybody is like, when they lose someone through suicide or someone's going through depression, it's like a lot of people will come to the table like, oh, fuck, I wish I did more. I can't believe that happened. It's like, it's too late once it's done, right? So we need to change our outlook on how to approach the situation, because, you know, having, like, we're mentally aware there's a problem. Like, there's a lot more awareness of, like, there's mental health issues out there, but are we approaching it the right way? It's about getting in touch with yourself. So materialistically, we cannot make ourselves happy, right? But also, it's not just about other people making you happy either.
I think that's that was my next point I wanted to say. I think you're spot on. I think the first place to look is inner self. The inner me, which is Kimbo Slice's line, which I loved. He always said, you know, it's the inner me, enemy, and that's where it comes. If I can defeat that, no man I fear.
Yep.
You know, I think there's something really profound about that. And a lot of philosophy that came from Greece, a lot of philosophy that came from the poets in Iran and Persia and all these other places, they tend to first look inside and search for the answers inside. I think we are a world within worlds. You know, our whole being is, there's a Baha'i saying which is beautiful. It says, the universe is folded within you.
Okay.
And sometimes we reach out too far for the things we have right here.
Yep.
It's hard to describe with words. It's a feeling, you know, it's a feeling. We're talking about feelings. Yep. But anyway, the point is, maybe the first place to look is somewhere inside you. And sometimes you need direction there. You can't do it on your own. You can't see it. It's too blurry. It's too foggy. You're lost in the midst of it. And that's when it gets really tricky. You really want to have good friends around you who are there for you, you know. So that's friendships are important.
Friendships are huge. And I think that's where, so if I could give people advice, if they're listening to this, right, about people who are going through it and people who feel that somebody they love is going through it, there's different points of views here, right? So you could be going through depression and you'll hit your lowest point in life. But the natural human reaction is when somebody is down in the dirt, that's when everybody leaves.
Isn't that interesting?
No one wants to be affiliated with somebody who's made the mistakes they've made. And that's the thing. When you go down this rabbit hole of depression, you step outside of yourself. You're no longer yourself.
We're always looking for a high in life, right? As humans, we're always looking for something to pick us up.
Yep.
Whether it's coffee, whether catching up, whether to watch something, whether to do an activity, it's always about the high. And so when someone is in a gutter, it takes someone who knows themselves really well, who can step into the darkness and be protected protected and help someone.
Yeah.
You look, as an actor, man, like a lot of the roles that I've been fortunate to take on, they're pretty dark and heavy roles, and it requires you to look at a shadow within you and really drive there consciously, which your body doesn't know the difference between performance and reality. Your body just feels it, and so it feels like it's real. And so there are techniques to get out of that, that are literal techniques. And you have to be able to. You have to be able to not lose yourself. And I've lost myself there, you know, a few times. And it's an interesting space. I'm more drawn to it than other people for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe that's why I'm attracting the type of roles I'm attracting. But it is an interesting space, and I'm not sure if the average person during their day is consciously chasing that space.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think why should they, unless it comes for you. And when it comes for you, you know, that's when you realize you don't have the tools necessary to be able to pull yourself out of the mud.
So it does. It comes out of nowhere. So for me, I'm just going to speak in terms of like what I've learned from it, in terms of like how I had to get myself out of it, but how I realized I was in it, because you actually don't realize that you're going through it or you're going down that path, right? The choices that we make, right? A person with integrity can go down that path. Like, I never thought that I would ever go through depression. A lot of my friends were like, fuck that, you're the last person I thought that would go through that, because I was always the life of the party. I'd walk into a room, I can make friends with everybody, right? I lost my entire being. That I became something I wasn't, right? And it's because you make these choices in life, because we're all trying to head in a certain direction. We got goals, we got like things that we see ourselves doing, but we all make choices, and sometimes they're the right choices, sometimes they're the wrong choices. We're just trying to find our way. Like, that's life. Like, everything that we do is trial and error. We all learn from mistakes, right? Sometimes we make the right decision, sometimes it's the wrong. And so you know, if you make a wrong decision or you do something, let's say, oh, I should have done it the other way. You go down a different path, right? And eventually you go deeper and deeper down this hole. You don't even realize you're going into it until one day you're so unhappy and you're like, how the fuck did I get here? Right? And it's in those moments when you lose yourself and everybody who knows you turns their back, because you're no longer that person they knew, right? And you're like, fuck, this is the moment I need people in my corner. But I think for anybody who's going through depression or see someone that they care about, that is the time, one, they need you. And two, if you're going through it and you don't have the people in your corner, you still got to take a deep breath, sit back, and then start asking yourself the honest questions, because it's not about people picking you up either. It helps that people are in your corner for when you come out of it, but it still comes down to you asking yourself the honest questions and then answering them within you. Because once you start making those changes, you can start digging yourself out of the grave you dug yourself into, right? So it's about people who are trying to help someone get out of depression. Be there for them, hear them, check in on them, offer to, do something with them, just so they know there are people out there that care. It might give them that extra nudge to be like, okay, fuck, what do I need to do?
Point of motivation, maybe, yeah.
And then if you're going through depression, my biggest urges to you right now is like, even if you're at rock bottom, there's only one way to go up, right? All hope is not lost. It's first just being honest with yourself and going, what could I do better? Who are the people I've hurt and how did I hurt them, right? And then don't seek forgiveness from others. First, forgive yourself, because you cannot step forward until you get out of your own head. If you're unforgiving of yourself, doesn't matter how many people forgive you, right? So forgive yourself, take the steps. And then my biggest point of advice is do the things that make you happy. And this is something we've spoken about before, like we wake up and we do these jobs that we're not happy with. And that's another thing that loses us in the first place. We start compromising in life, right? We're going to a job that we don't like, and then we think, oh, fuck, yeah, I'll do this job. It's going to get me somewhere in my career. And we might take these little short steps to try and get further and further, but we're actually moving further and further away from ourselves to get somewhere that is what? Materialistic, right? And then we forget about the people we love, the things we love to do. All of that shit's got to change, right? And the only way you can do it is you first got to be honest with yourself that, if you're fucking those things up, forgive yourself and move forward.
That's well said. A lot of times you may feel just not good enough, that you're not there's no progression in your life, that it's stalemate, that the one thing you have to tell yourself, from now on, I am one of the people who simply doesn't quit. Now, I don't know what I'll face. I'll lay all my affairs in a larger force, but I will not quit. And that's your basis. From there, then it's all up.
Yep.
You just can't quit.
You can't quit. No. But having gone through it, when you lose yourself that much, you don't think level-headed like that. Yeah, because I grew up with this mentality of like, that would never happen to me. I was too strong for it. And it's like, when it hit me, I was like, fuck, it hit me, right? And here's the thing though that I found from it, right? If it can hit someone like me, it can hit anybody. Doesn't matter how rich you are. Doesn't matter how poor you are. Money isn't the saving grace here. Materials are not the saving grace, because there are people who are filthy rich that are depressed. There are people that are filthy rich that have taken their lives, right? Money, materialistics don't do it. It's about inner self, and it first comes with you healing yourself, right?
And the fact that you said that, I thought it'd never be me. And when I realized, oh shit, it's happening to me, how is that possible? I think we should all recognize it could be any of us, that we're all sun and shadow. We're both.
Yep.
There's no one in the world lives without darkness.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have that, then you don't have light either.
Yep.
Right? So you have to have that darkness. You have to recognize it's in me too. And how do I recognize my shadow, as Carl Jung said? How do I embody it in a way where it's healthy, where I'm able to say, look, I have these things, these places I can go to that can bring me really down, and recognize those places and go, I'm about to get triggered. I'm about to go down that path. I need to do a U-turn real fast before I get into a place where I don't see anything.
I'm glad you said that, because here's another thing is that there are people that go down these paths and they make bad choices, right? And whether or not it's depression, like people who go down the drugs path and they keep making the same mistake and things like that, right? You might ask yourself, what's to say you won't do it again or go through depression again, right? That might be a fear factor for people. My answer to that is, it's just like anything in life. Like when you make mistakes in life, right, you learn what you've done wrong, right? Having gone through depression and being honest with myself about the things I've done, the path I took, I'm able to recognize the things that got me down there in the first place, right? So I can see the moment it's like, oh, fuck, no, I'm not doing that, because I know where that leads, right? Yeah. It's just like a simple thing like what I was saying to you in the car, right, is that I found like a little video editing place to help with editing videos, the simplest stuff that I do, right? It's like I film and I have to edit. But when I'm constantly filming and then I'm stuck editing, it takes away from doing the things in life that you enjoy, right? You don't want to like spend less time with your kids. I love my time with my kids, right? Every time I'm with them, we're doing basketball, we're watching movies, we're doing something fun. If I take away myself from that, right, and the next time they come over and it's like, yeah, girls, go do whatever you want, I'm just going to do my work, right? You start to create these things, like these boxes of like importance and priorities. It's like, oh, I've got to do work because money. So family time, oh, I'll put that a little bit less because I can make up for it. The truth is, you can't make up for family time, right? If the more and more you push that down and you put like your materialistic and your money and your career, you lose more and more family time, right? So for me, it was like, all right, I'm going to find a video editing place that's not too expensive, that's not going to break my bank or take out of my profits as much. It's like, all right, I'm going to film, and the jobs that I can, I pass over to them, I get my time back. That is because I've learned from my mistakes in the past. Too much time into work, right? Takes away from time from people that you love. So you've got to like be conscious of these things. And that is like, if you're going through depression now, that's where you need to go ask yourself these questions. Why is things going bad? And if you can start to try and answer them, then you can start to change them before it's too late. And sometimes, for some of us, it's like, it's about hitting rock bottom and making it too late before you can get back up again.
100% agree. The other thing about it is, we're talking about places that we don't want to go to because we know that it will trigger a point of weakness.
Yeah.
I think for me, I had to be really conscious about not running away too much from those monsters because they build up behind the scene. And when you meet them again, they're far stronger, and generally comes in the shape of a task that I don't want to do. That's going to hinder me later on, but I don't want to do it right now. I don't want to deal with it, or someone I don't want to deal with, or a relationship issue that I have that I just want to put aside. And those bits of dry wood that you're throwing in behind your house eventually may catch fire. And if it's too piled up, your whole house is going to burn down. So you do want to take care of the little things that bother you head on.
Yep.
And know that you are absolutely courageous enough to be able to battle those monsters. And behind a monster is always, behind a dragon is always gold. It's the oldest story. You have to go through the dragon to get to the gold.
Yep.
And I feel like what I consciously did that really helped me was write down the things that bothered me the most. And I had to physically write it down. I think it's a good practice to do because you want to get it out of your head onto something where you can look at it as a third person and go, all right, monster, these are the priorities in my life I need to deal with first because they are the things that are going to burn the house down if I don't deal with them.
Yep.
And step by step, all of a sudden, you lighten up. The load becomes lighter, I promise you. And I promise you, the energy within you is so powerful that if you just manage to get one, you'll get another. And before you know it, you've gone through all the monsters. And next time you see them, you can recognize them and you can battle them and you have the skill set to do it. And you're like a knight that's just absolutely badass samurai ninja knight, that type of thing. Yeah. But I think it's hard when you just suddenly find yourself there, and that's where you were. At that point, network and people you love, who trust, people who that when you go and talk to them, they don't judge you. Those people become really important in your life, and you shouldn't lose them. It's
very hard to find too, man.
Very hard to find, but if you have them...
There's another thing though, there's another side to it, is that, I had people that love me, right? But you also go through this stage where it's like you become a shell of yourself, right? That, you know what I'm like. When I'm around people, I can talk to anybody. I can make friends. And even more so before, right? Before I went through depression, even more so than I can now. When I went through depression, I found myself not wanting to be around people. So even my closest of friends, I put a smile on to have a chat with them. Like we'd have birthdays or whatever and they'd come over and it's like, yeah, go in there and you're like, fuck, all right, I got to psych myself up to look a certain way in front of these people, right? Because you don't want them to see you that way, or you don't want to talk about it. So you got to remember as well, a lot of people going through depression, they don't want to talk about it. They're hiding. Yeah, right? Yeah. And you're hiding in the shadows. So a lot of people go through it on their own. And that's why a lot of people who have taken their life, no one saw it coming. Think about it. Like there's a lot of people who've done it. Like for actors, like if you think about Robin Williams.
I'm sure people close to him saw it. I mean, he was battling alcoholism. But yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, I mean, like I've had friends that have like lost friends as well, and everyone was like, "What the fuck? Where did that come from?" No one knew it.
I've lost friends to it, and in hindsight, looking back in the playback, you go, "Oh, that was that. There was an indication." But as it's happening, it's hard to figure out what's going on.
And so people going through it, they're kind of battling it a little bit on their own, and as they go deeper and deeper down that rabbit hole, you're also starting to lose people close to you because of the way you start behaving, right?
Yeah.
You're pushing people away.
100%. And that goes to your point, which is, the are you okay thing. That things like that can quickly become gimmicks and a way to standardize moral value by just stamping the words and going, hey, look at me, I'm one of the people who are a part of this. And it can easily become just a show.
It becomes about ego as well. Like people like, oh yeah, look at me. And look, stop putting the post online, because I guarantee you the most people going through depression, when we see that those are you okay posts, I think, shut the fuck up. It
pisses you off.
It pissed me off.
Yeah.
Okay, I was actually saying a story earlier. I went into a petrol station. This was while I was going through it, right? I went into a petrol station, wanted to buy an iced coffee, picked up a Dare iced coffee, and on the label it says, are you okay? It's just become such a fad and just a word that the whole purpose of it has become lost. I looked at that fucking iced coffee, man, and it pissed me off. I was like, I'm not. But what the fuck are you as a label going to do for me?
Yeah, this is
right.
Stupid,
it's stupid. And it's like, all right, you're spreading the word, but we've spread this word on posts, on like labels on iced coffee, and we're constantly repeating this phrase, are you okay? That it's become, that's what people think you need to ask someone. No, you need to start a conversation. They need to feel like they can open up to you, and no one's going to open up to you with a closed-ended question. Are you okay? I got asked that heaps of times. And I always said, yeah, I'm good. But I fucking wasn't, right? And so there's this world, like a whole headspace has got to change, right? Again, like we talk about this documentary, The Social Media, The Social Dilemma, right? They said something in that, I think it was Tristan in it. He said words to the effect of that, we love our partners, our family, our close friends, but our minds, the human brain, was not built to like constantly feel like we need this love from 10,000 plus people, right? So if you actually think back to generations before us, the goal of a family man and a woman was to find the person you love, have a family, and live your life and get old and gray together. That was the goal, man. Right? And then somewhere along the line, it became about fame, about likes, about showing how successful you are. Success has become materialistic, whereas in the old days, success was a loving family. We fucking lost that whole mindset.
Well, you and I are evidence of the fact that we haven't. And I think a lot more people are like us. When you go online, these echo chambers, man, it just seems so crazy. And obviously bleeds into, especially the younger people who haven't developed fully, but you do get to a point where you realize none of this stuff means anything. I used to get it when I was younger, when I was starting out acting, a guy would get a role or, be like, that guy? And I watch a movie and be like, that really? That... watch this, and and have this ego about like, all right, I'm going to fucking push this thing as hard as I can go and read. And whether maybe it was beneficial to a certain period of time, but slowly you realize my passion is empathizing with another human, walking in their shoes, being able to fully embody their being.
Yep.
That's it. And if there was nothing beyond that, and there still was a job that you get $20 an hour doing, I'd still be doing that, because I get to live 1,000 lives and experience 1,000 different human beings in one avatar.
Yep.
You're just jumping. My consciousness is jumping through different human beings and figuring out their shortfalls, their goals, their desires, and seeing the world through their eyes. It's a beautiful thing. And also by doing that and telling stories tend to really get me. Like when I watched Green Mile,
great film,
and and the main character, I can't remember his name now, but he's in the thing, and they're about to put him to death, and they go to put a bag over his head, and he goes, "No, boss, I'm scared of the dark." Man, that still to this day brings me to tears watching that scene. and it was like, look how cruel humans can be when they're in a system that they themselves are a part of it, but they're against it, but they're in the system. Like, why are we doing this? Why isn't anyone standing up? And we're just going with this flow, and we're killing an innocent man. Everybody we know knows it, and we're all just going along with it. What the fuck is going? It's so human.
Yeah,
we do this all the time. That's why it's attached to truth. When you talk about honesty, it would have taken one person to say, he didn't fucking do it. And then 2 people say, actually, you know what? I agree. He didn't do it. And then 10 people, and then 10,000, and 100,000. And it would have been a different scenario. But everyone just, the tragedy of the film is the fact that, you know, the guy who plays the main bodyguard, the actor, I forget his name. But anyway, he's the one that sort of gets healed by him. And yet he sees the miracle this person has done and knows that is like, tell me what to do and I will do it. You know, that scene is like, I don't know what to do. You tell me, do you want me to like help you escape?
Yeah.
He just needed you to tell the truth.
Yeah.
And individually, that's every individual's responsibility.
Yep.
Tell the truth and you will see the miracles of God on earth. Honestly, it's as easy as that. Just tell the truth.
Yeah. I mean, I'll wrap up with a couple of things on my thoughts as well. I think, you know, when you say you and me are like the examples of people that are still the old school mindset, being honest with things as well is like, I lost that mindset too. And it comes down to like the age old thing of like, things start with the right intent. Like, again, you know, using Social Dilemma as an example, they said, you know, social media started off with the right intent. It had this intention to connect people. Then it went down somewhere else, right? Anybody out there who's like working on their career, your intent might be pure. It's like, I'm going to be a provider. I'm going to succeed and I'm going to provide for my family. And with that intent, you might put all your passion and your goals into being successful. But when you put all your passion into something, you are potentially jeopardizing something else. You're basically, you're not seeing something else that you're not there for, depriving. It becomes less as a priority as like your success, right? So when you do that and you lose yourself in there, you make those mistakes. And I made that mistake for a while there. I was so driven with good intent that my good intent had like bad side effects.
Yeah, unintended consequences.
Yeah, unintended consequences. And that can happen to anybody. The purest of men, purest of women, that can happen to, right? I guess for me, this whole episode for me is about just putting that word out there that don't lose sight of the bigger picture. And the bigger picture in life is not about being successful in money or materialistic things. It's about being successful in your own heart of like happiness. That's essentially what we all really want. We all really want to be happy. Right?
I think above happiness, and this is my personal opinion, I think happiness is a very finite source of energy, and I don't think it's sustainable. You can't just be happy the whole day.
No, you can't. No.
It's just a point of like on your compass when you have those moments. It's a point of pause and going, okay, I'm on the right path. It's just a direction. Happiness is just a finite feeling. I think the feeling that really can help you sustain life in a meaningful way is contentment. I think being content with your situation, having the right perspective and looking at it not always relative to some other people, but rather to your yesterday, then you can have this sense of contentment, and nothing in the world can shift that too much. You're not too down and you're not too up. You know, it's you're just riding the wave.
I like what you said, and so I'll take it one step further. Let's consider content. We got a graph. Content is the middle line, right? On top of that is like happiness all the time, and then at the bottom is depression. No one can stay on the highs. There's constant ups and downs in life. So you're going to be like happy and then you're going to go down. But You got your middle line, the content. So you're happy, you're above content. Come down, let it drop back down to content. The way to stay above it, though, is to not drop down from content to depression. Yeah, you want to stay above the content line or on the content line as much as possible. That's our goal, right? And so in order to do that, we can't lose sight of the fact that we need to make the decisions in life to keep us on that content line or happy and not below it for too long, right? Because we are all going to go below it at some point. But it's like if your constant goal is like, I want to be successful in this career and it's money, money, money that's driving you and you're forgetting about the other important things in life, you are eventually going to burn the fuck out. You're going to drop below the content line and you're going to stay down there.
It's very true. The higher you go, when you're reaching for those peak feelings, the harder you fall down as well. It's like any drug. When you get high, the aftermath is always, going down and feeling like shit.
Yep.
And these endorphins in your system are what makes you happy. There is a dump afterwards.
Yeah.
So if you have the wrong perspective, you're never going to come back to that content level. There are pillars in your life. You have to decide what they are. People don't even think about this. There are certain things that will always be sturdy and you can always stand on them. And having a nucleus family, that's one pillar in life. If you have that of your own, not your father and mother and brother, because they'll have their own, your own little family, that's for me was a pillar. I can always stand on that. No matter if the world's burning, I still have them to be with them. And if you're lucky to have a partner that feels the same way, I mean, a lot of people aren't, but if you are lucky to find that person, that's one of the indications of a good partner is that they have that value. So these values, we've forgotten about them, but they're so important, man. And a part of our society was built on those things. That's why we got to this place where we're like elevated as human beings. We were able to have these materialistic flourishments that weren't really chased after for a period of time. Now we are. And now we're seeing a downfall of those pillars, which is so crucial. Another one would be a meaningful path of a career or a meaningful way of living, a meaningful contribution to society, as something of value you can give. You cannot be sad and be a selfless serviceman. Those two things do not work together. You cannot be grateful and be hateful at the same time. You can be grateful and then hateful, but you can never be feeling that gratitude and also have hate in your heart. They don't go together. It's water and fire, my man. And so if you want to have water in your heart and be, try and chase gratitude always. It will keep you content. Try and have a pillar of strong pillars like a family, like a value of service, a friendship, a kindness, and tell the fucking truth. Always, no matter what seems to be the consequence, because the consequence of you not telling it far outweighs you telling it. I guarantee you, your house will burn. And that's the way I feel. I'm pretty strong of feeling about that. But
I am too. I think, this is a massive conversation anyway. We can dig into deeper things of like truth in another podcast as well. I mean, there's so many pillars of truth that I have my thoughts on as well. But I think deep down, if you can work on yourself and be honest, because it actually all starts from there. It comes from the depths of honesty, right? If you can be honest with yourself, like unforgivingly honest, I'm talking about, doesn't matter. Just be honest with yourself. Forget everybody else. Forgive yourself. Make those steps to better yourself by being honest with yourself and forgiving yourself. You can start stepping up. And that's not to say, look, there's other things like we're talking about this, and I think anybody who's going through it as well, this conversation isn't just about this is just the way to get out of it, right? I think a good idea is for everybody to seek help. Like, I think that's another thing coming from my generation, like being born in the 80s, growing up in the 90s, we had this mentality is that men that seek help are weak, right? And that was just a mentality growing up. For me, I found talking to someone helped. I didn't do it for very long. I found the answers within myself, right? But it did help. I let go of that stigma, and it did help talking to someone, because you start to question where it all began. That's how I found out where for me things began, right? By talking to someone. And the moment I realized where it began, I started finding myself from there and like learning about me, and then becoming honest with myself, and starting my journey back to happiness, right? So I think anybody who's listening, if you're going through those kind of thoughts, definitely speak to someone, because that's the first step to understanding yourself. And for anybody who's listening that isn't quite sure about how to approach somebody that's going through it, there's not a day, like there's not a question you can ask, like, are you okay? That's going to make the conversation start. And you can't start the conversation for a lot of people in a day. It takes time. It takes effort. If you care about the person, put the time and effort in, and try to make them open up and find themselves again, and just be part of that. But there's no quick fix for a lot of people. It takes time.
It's a process. And if you're stuck on an island where there's no one around you to ask, write it down, because it in effect does the same thing, because it brings you outside of you, and you can see it on a piece of paper, and you can recognize there is something there you can look at. I think writing it down, if you can't muster up the courage, just write it down as a starting point. I'd really recommend that.
Good chatting with you, man.
Always.
Come back to this one day. Cheers.